Is the sky falling? The end of credit card rewards? I actually booked something from 2027. I think the sky is falling, Mark.
I mean, if you're booking into 2027, it must not be falling that bad.
So happy Monday. Good news that we received today that the FAA has removed restrictions and flying should be back to 100% before Thanksgiving and all of the holidays.
I don't know why it took this long to release it, and I'm sure there's still some cascading going on that's gonna if there's any type of weather, we're going to have some issues compound on top of each other. But hopefully, we don't run into any weird storms this time of year, and they can get things back right because things always go wrong around Thanksgiving. So I try to avoid traveling on Thanksgiving, but I will be this year. But it will be international, so hopefully I'm outside of all the craziness.
Yeah, you're right. On the best of years, there's still a lot of nonsense that goes on with cancellations. Weather is always a big factor this time of year with big snowstorms or whatever can happen. It's maybe a little early for that, but still delays. So it's never fun to travel during Thanksgiving. But yeah, when you're going out of the country, it's fun to spend Thanksgiving out of the country. My first Thanksgiving outside of the US was in New Zealand in 2007, and we went to a local grocery store that day, bought like a rotisserie chicken, but in New Zealand it was stuffed. It had stuffing inside. So we had chicken and stuffing on Thanksgiving in New Zealand.
There you go. And it's funny because when you talk to regular people around the U.S., they're like, "Oh, what do they do for Thanksgiving?" It's like, no, it's an American holiday, man. Like, they don't do it 4th of July if you're traveling. Nobody cares about that. Yeah, the big ones, Christmas, at least in a lot of countries, things like that. But for the most part, the holidays we do, like Memorial Day, Labor Day, it's not a thing elsewhere, or they have their own dates for it. Like once I was in Canada, and it was their Thanksgiving, and I didn't know it, and most stuff was closed. And you're like, oh crap, didn't plan this well.
Yeah, Boxing Day is huge in a lot of the British sort of countries like Canada or the UK or Australia. That's the day after Christmas. That's like their Black Friday is the day after Christmas. But yeah, it was funny when I was in New Zealand. I was thinking, I'm like, I was celebrating Thanksgiving, but because of the time zone change, we were actually the next day. So it was actually not even Thanksgiving yet in the US. It's amazing how culture does. But then I've talked about like when I was in Japan and in Asia just this recently, how Halloween is everywhere. So some of our holidays do spread.
Your story about New Zealand, it makes me laugh about all those social media memes and stuff of people being like, I heard that Asia's 12 hours ahead. Why didn't they warn us about this or that?
It is weird though, the first time you're away from home and you're so far removed, like in a place like Asia or Australia. Europe is a little bit less bad depending on the time, but especially if you're like on the East Coast and stuff. But where you're just completely removed from the day, the time, the people back home, of what your life is back home. And I guess now on like social media, it's interesting when you're traveling and then you're interacting like with Twitter or something, and it's the middle of the night at home. You see all kinds of different stuff, but it is really strange to fathom how you could just be living a completely different timeline somewhere else.
No, and I noticed that when I was in Thailand for New Year's Eve, and we're celebrating it, and then it's still like a day away back at home, and even with work stuff because I was working when I was over there, and I'd be conversing with people as they're starting their day, and I was wrapping up my day. I'd be like, "Hey, this, make sure this gets done, or this goes out. I have it scheduled for this time." Then you'd go to bed, and you'd wake up. It's the next day, but it's still the same day for them, and they're just wrapping up work, and uh, and you're like, "Oh, it's so confusing." It takes a couple days to get used to it. What I do, my trick is, I leave my laptop in Eastern Standard Time. Like I leave it all the same, especially for work because we have to schedule based on that. And it makes it so much easier than trying to do the mental gymnastics of what day it is, what time it is there, all that stuff. So I don't know if you work while you travel. That's my tip.
Here's a little behind the channel. So the worst thing about YouTube is when you're publishing a video, it's based on the time zone you're in. So I always have to go figure out what time zone I am versus at home, and then do all the subtraction because you can't just say Pacific time, publish it at this time, Pacific time. But what you just said, we're going to talk about Ben and 1 Mile at a Time, a story he has a little bit later. But he's all this time, I know he's written in the past how he tries to stay on East Coast time for business as he's traveling. And if you think about the amount of traveling that dude does, that's insane to think about staying on East Coast time.
Yeah, I don't know if I could pull that off, and I don't think he travels as much as he used to. But during his heyday, I don't. He was in a hotel 300 days a year. I feel like so, and most of it was internationally with the different time zone and everything. So I couldn't imagine just working during the night and sleeping during the day, and that wouldn't be that much fun. And I think he did end up spending a lot of times just in hotels or on airlines and didn't get it to go out as much because he does work a ton and he produces a ton of content and he kind of grinds it out no matter where he is.
Yeah, and sometimes you're just tired. I don't know how this became a discussion working on the road, but it reminds me of just a month or so ago when I had just had a beautiful day at Tokyo Disneyland, and then I had to sit up till 2 in the morning to edit a video. It's, just when you're traveling, it's hard to fit in and you're working unless you have that time set aside. Like, okay, I'm going to stay on East Coast time from 9 to 1 Eastern. I'm going to work. You start fitting it in with all your other activities, and it gets exhausting. It gets difficult, and then you end up at 2 a.m. after Disneyland editing a video as you're falling asleep, just praying that you don't fall asleep before you hit publish.
Yeah, I've fallen asleep while writing in bed before that has happened. When I'm with my family, it usually works out that they sleep in. They tend to sleep in, and I don't sleep well in hotels. So I'll get up at like 6 a.m. local time or 7 a.m. And then I'll usually get like a 3-4 hour block where they're still sleeping in, or they'll go down to breakfast and I'll stay up in the room and finish it up. And I can get most of it hammered out at that time, and then I'll do a little bit at night. So we figured out a good system for it, but it's tough when you're doing stuff and all you want to do is go to bed and you have to sit down and put something together and use your brain, which you don't want to do. And that doesn't matter if it's you're doing stuff like us, blogging, creating videos, whatever it be, or if you're just trying to keep up with emails at work, it's the same type of thing.
Yeah, and society glorifies this is a job. It's a great job working and traveling and all this sort of stuff. But we've talked about it before. It can be exhausting, and you still have to do that. And it does take some of the fun out of traveling. When you're talking about Ben, he was in hotels a lot, shifting his whole hours. And like, people say, okay, you're in Singapore, go enjoy Singapore. But, he's been to Singapore a bunch of times. That's his work. And maybe he just went there to go sit in a hotel, write, and then get back on an airplane. And that's life and that's work and that's okay. But it is, sometimes it wears you down. Hence why he's probably not traveling as much anymore.
No, yeah, it definitely does. And a lot of times people are going just to check out a lounge or check out a new property or fly a new airplane, and they don't really get to experience what's on the ground. That's not so much our style compared to some others, but I know a lot of people that do that. If a new lounge is opening at JFK, they'll fly there to be there for opening day, depending on which site they work for, or the bigger the site, the more likely that's going to happen. Somebody's going to be there, but that always seemed crazy to me. I'm like, I'll get there when I get there. Being the first isn't always the best. I don't need to travel just for that.
Yeah, another couple that does stuff like that, JT and Katie Genter over at Award Wallet. They're traveling all the time, running sites, doing all kinds of crazy things. They just finished their million-mile Turkish thing I saw, so they got their Turkish miles. You talk about there's just a different level of energy, I think, with them and with some people that live that lifestyle, and it becomes a game. But I mean, when you talk to them in person, they just love that. That's the way they want to live. Stephen Pepper, he's been on the road forever too, or he had been. So yeah, there's a lot of people in this space that are doing it. It's good, it's fun, but it can be exhausting. And I don't know where else we can go with this from here, but
Well,
there you go.
it's easier when you don't have kids. Let's say that.
That is true. That is true. As somebody who has worn himself down many times over the years traveling with kids, but it is cool to do that. Yeah, let me talk real quick about my 27 thing, and then we got some stories to go in with Chase and some new card rules that they have implemented that don't look very good. The Venture X and the Venture X business have a big sort of bonuses. 400K for the business if you want to spend a ton of money. And then that article I alluded to, but from 1 Mile at a Time, about a Visa MasterCard settlement that may affect your credit card rewards. But 2027, Mark, I booked a cruise for 2027, and it has everything to do with the solar eclipse.
I thought, am I messing this up? I thought Greenland was supposed to be, and that was like 2026, or is there two of them? I know there's like a whole bunch of them, and it depends where you are, but then maybe there's a couple coming up over the next few years. And the only reason I know that is because we were coming back from Hawaii on the last one that was fairly decent in the Midwest, and I didn't wake my son up because he had been on a flight all night, and he was super ticked that he missed it. And I promised I would take him to Iceland or something to see the next one. So I looked, I couldn't find any good flights when they first opened. I don't know if we're still going to do it, but I'm going to try. So maybe there's a couple of them coming up.
So I was looking at the free cruises, and we haven't really talked on this show about Princess and my experience. We've talked a little bit on our Vegas Patreon about it, but kind of gotten into the Princess ecosystem of getting free cruises. And maybe we'll do a whole segment on that at some point soon to kind of, I think it's very lucrative for people in this space. If you can get on board and get one cruise and then strategically gamble, it seems like it opens the door to a lot of cruises. We've gotten several free cruises, but most of them are limited, right? Not unlimited. We don't gamble a lot. We didn't, no high roller here. We're not getting huge suites. We're getting inside rooms, stuff like that. So we're like, the lower level gambler that they're trying to fill the rooms with. So it's
The
like
rooms that
limited dates, but
they lock you in when something bad goes wrong because they don't want too many people going up to the top, right?
yeah, something like that. Where I'm Jack, right, from
Yeah.
Titanic. We're in steerage class, but that's okay with us. So, trying to find dates with summer and winter breaks and things that work with the school schedule, it's been limited. But anyway, yesterday I looked and there was this new cruise, 14-day cruise. Actually, there was two of them, one out of London, one out of Rome. I chose the one out of Rome because it goes to places that I haven't been in Europe, like Gibraltar, which is a big one for me. I want to get there. Some other ports in southern France and Italy. Bring my daughter back to Pompeii, which is Naples. So there's a lot of cool stuff. Pisa would be another thing I've been to, but I want to bring her to. So there was just a lot of really cool stuff. And it was completely free for us, added in the fare for her. It came to about $1,000 total for a 14-night cruise with just the taxes and stuff. And it was incredible to me. But one of the days is the total solar eclipse. So we will be, and it's over the Mediterranean. So we will be there out at sea watching the total eclipse. And I was like, I got to book this. And then I looked at the cash price. So we paid a little, so it cost us $1,400, but we get $400 in onboard credit because our deposit goes towards credit. So our net is $1,000. The cash price was almost $8,500 for an inside cabin for 3 people on this cruise. So I feel like I'm getting value there.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. 14 days Mediterranean type of cruise, Europe cruise, I would expect it to be a bit pricier. So that sounds like a really good deal. And maybe the one in 2026 is like a partial solar eclipse. I don't know, but I wonder if they're gonna have you like make your own viewing glasses or whatever you use, where you make it out of like paper towel rolls or however you do
This
it.
isn't Carnival, Mark, okay? This isn't Carnival, so hopefully they give us some glasses. We're doing a Christmas cruise with Princess, and I was looking it up, and they do all the Christmas festivities. They also do Hanukkah, because Hanukkah will be during our cruise as well, so we'll get to do Hanukkah. So the cruise lines do tend to have stuff like this, but in this case, they're selling that day, like one of the days on the itinerary is for the eclipse. And the other great thing is this is the end of the summer, so this is the last 2 weeks of her summer break. So it worked perfectly timing-wise for us to do this as a end of summer trip. I know I'm going to regret it, though, being in Europe in the height of the heat in the summer. So complaining about air conditioning coming soon when I do this.
Can we talk one more time about why they don't have screens on their windows? I still don't understand this. Nobody's explained it to me. If anybody out there knows how to make screens and wants to open up a company, we could be billionaires within like 2 weeks, because these people open their windows and let all the bugs in all night. It makes no sense. It defies logic. I get the whole AC thing. They don't like it. Whatever. That's fine. But if you open your windows at night with no screens, you are just dumb. I don't care how great they think they are at whatever they're great at. They're idiots for not having screens on their windows. I don't understand it.
So he just called all Europeans idiots.
Yeah.
It is a cultural
Anybody
difference.
that doesn't have a
It's crazy.
screen is an idiot. You wake up to like a bug's life every morning. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's the age-old decision. I talked about it when I was in Venice. You had to decide, am I going to get overrun with mosquitoes, or am I going to keep the window closed and die of the heat? And you end up dying with the heat. Put a couple of small fans on you and just hope that better days are ahead. But so speaking of that, I want some Rome hotel suggestion. Not that I could book anything right now for 27, but with good air conditioning. I need a Rome hotel because I haven't been there. The last time I was there, I stayed in a guest house or something. That's how long it's been since I've done Rome. Not my favorite city in the world, but the history there is incredible. When you're walking among those ruins, you've done it. It's just incredible. But the city itself,
Yeah, I think the tourist areas definitely get a bit wear on you a bit, and That's why we like it's the DoubleTree. I think it's like DoubleTree Monty or something like that. It was 60 or 70,000 points the last time we stayed there, and that's where we stayed both times I've been there because I like it. It's a little bit you can walk to everything still, but it's outside of that, and you're more in like a local neighborhood. We went to an Irish pub and watched a football or soccer game for the local Roma team, and it just had that cool vibe. And there is a beautiful church right across the street that you can go tour and everything too. But you're 15 minutes away from the tourist attractions, 15, 20 minutes maybe. But when you get up there, it's completely low key. There's not a ton of people around. There's not a lot of just gawkers or anything like that. So I really enjoyed that property. If I remember right, the AC was pretty decent. I think the one time we did have the patio and we opened that door, but it was December. So luckily we didn't get a whole bunch of bugs coming in because it did get a little bit warmer.
Yeah, it's always a roulette, but I'm excited for that. And I will talk on a future show about Princess and just the specific things we've done and then how that's paid off for free cruises and then potentially where we could go for. I have more free cruises at this point than I can use. And that's why I've been perusing with this free cruise offer that I just used for this 27 cruise, hadn't quite found anything yet. And this sort of popped up. And I love that novelty. And I don't think I've ever seen a total eclipse like at the proper position. Like I feel like I've seen eclipses in my life, but I've never gone out of my way for one. And I don't think a total. Yeah, I can't imagine just being out at sea, nothing around you in any direction, and then the whole world goes black. That'll be awesome.
How many people end up in the medical area with retina burns from looking at it on the cruise ship, do you think?
They're gonna give us glasses, Mark. This isn't Carnival.
Plus
okay?
or minus 11. Do you think it'll be more than 11 people that go down there with burnt retinas?
I'm gonna bet that they give us glasses, that they give us something cool.
I don't care. People
for
will
our
not wear them.
$8,000 cruise. This is the best value I've ever gotten in a free cruise. I don't know. I guess because, like you said, Mediterranean summer, 14 days. But I was shocked when I always do that just for fun. I'll go in incognito and then just look at the same cruise and then see what the price is. But yeah, never have I seen this. I think it was like 8,500 ish. I'll throw up a screenshot that I took so you guys can see it. But yeah, excited about that. But maybe we should talk Venture X, talk about these big bonuses on the personal card, 100,000 miles after 10,000 spend in 6 months. But the business card, big, they're going big again. This is what Capital One likes to do, 400,000 miles, but that is broken up into two sort of qualifying periods. 200,000 miles after you spend 30,000 in the first 3 months, then you get the rest after you spend 150,000 in the first 6 months. That would include your original 30,000, so extra 120,000 in spend. I would probably go with the 200. I don't know that it makes sense to go further than that unless you have just an insane amount of spend. But it's good to see these cards coming into a window with increased offers.
I mean, if you finish all the spend, you end up with 700,000. That's kind of crazy when you think about this. 700,000 points after spending the 150K in 6 months on the business card, which is an insane amount of miles, points, whatever you want to call them. I mean, that's $7,000 just in wiping off fees or travel expenses. So that's crazy. Yeah, if you have a business that has a decent amount of spend, I think it's a worthwhile offer. I think that comes out to just under 5x on all that spend, which is pretty hard to beat on 150K. But for a lot of people, it's going to be probably trying to reach that 30,000 spend mark in the 3 months. I think the personal card at 10,000 spend is a bit high for 100K on a personal card. I do like that they give you 6 months, but I wouldn't be surprised if people prefer the 75,000 after 4K, or a lot of people do, because that just seems like a bit of a stretch, and they're trying to capture that spend. One thing I didn't really think about until the other day was if you already have like the personal Venture X and you want to try to get the business, and you're just like looking at, okay, I just want to do the $30,000 in spend for the 200K. Maybe go with the Spark Cash Plus instead. It's $2,000 cash back after 30 grand in spend in 3 months. Their big spend offer is like $500,000 over a year. So forget about that. If you're just doing the first part, like Shawn said he would, and you already have the personal Venture X, you might not want that a second annual fee that's high. This card offers it. You can turn cash back from Capital One into points, and the annual fee is only $150 there. Now you can offset the Venture X business with the portal booking, all that stuff. But if you don't want to mess with any of it, that's another option for you.
Yeah, it's a great point, to look at the wider strategy, what you're doing, what benefits you need. and certainly not doubling up on the higher annual fee and the benefits. And we do that sometimes with cards. A lot of us get into the habit and where we end up having so many benefits that overlap with each other that they don't become valuable anymore. And that's good to see. 150,000 or 120,000 in extra spend, that is a huge opportunity cost where you could earn that elsewhere. But to your point, you're already earning 2x everywhere, plus the kicker of what, an extra 1.5x, something like that on that extra spend. So yes, you could go elsewhere. Certainly you could get more sign up bonuses, but there's a limit to that, right? With the banks. And if you already have a ton of spend, this is a really solid return, even on that big spend bonus. So I definitely see the math for the right business in doing this whole thing.
Yeah, and if your spend is in a area that you don't normally earn bonuses on, like if it's not at an office supply store, or if it's not on gas or anything like that, if it's just buying, let's say, medical supplies that earns 1x on every other card, then that makes it even better. So I think that plays a role into this, and how you can get creative with that and prepay some things. Some people probably have a tax bill coming up that will be big enough to wipe out a good chunk of that spend. So that's something you could prepare for too.
So let's move over to Chase and these new rules that they added to their ink cards, or new language. And you have a whole article where you kind of explain your theory as to where they put this language and what their thoughts were behind it. But the new language says the new card member bonus may not be available to you if you have ever had this card or any other Chase for Business card without an annual fee. We may also consider factors pertinent to your business in determining your bonus eligibility. This is just giving them an out to throw up a pop up to say you're not eligible if you apply. And is this new? I mean, is the pop up is not new? Just this language is new. Have we seen a ton of enforcement of this? I guess.
I think we've been seeing it a little bit more than initially we saw, and we should. I'll mention that, like, this isn't on the offer page where you go to chase.com and you're looking at the ink cash and you see that, like, oh, you know, the normal terms of the bonus. It's not there. It's on the application page, and it's like the number 11 out of 11 terms right before you hit submit. So they've buried it a bit, and I think that was on purpose. I think this is just to go after people that are churning these cards over and over and over again, which there are several. There's a lot of Instagram people, TikTok people. There's even other Facebook groups out there that are like, oh, just keep signing up for inks. Just never go above 524 and keep churning it. And maybe that has worked for a couple years, but it wasn't going to work forever. They're not, here to just give out huge bonuses one after another. And I think that's what this plays into. And if you've gotten this multiples of the same card, signing up for it every 6 months, 12 months, whatever it be, I think that's where they're targeting. And we've seen some people that have been getting hit with that pop up and not been able to get the bonus again. So that, to go along with the referrals where they're capping it, if to only people that have never had a Chase business card before on their ink products, you can see where they're going with this. They're tired of people just like making points hand over fist without really being in the ecosystem and continuing to spend on their cards.
Yeah, and this is probably just technology getting better, their algorithms, their reporting, their ability to crunch data to see what you're doing. And it's interesting that it's just specifically talking about no annual fee cards in that language, because that shows, okay, that's the lowest hanging fruit, probably their least profitable cards. Even though, I mean, the ink cash has been incredibly lucrative for a long time. It does have limits, which we imagine, because it hasn't changed, that Chase has put in place in order to keep the card profitable. But these are cards that Chase has spent a lot of money. You talk about the referral bonuses. We know on the affiliate side, these have been cards that they spend a lot of money to capture customers. So it's not even just the welcome offer they're giving you. They're probably paying a lot of money on the back end as well. And it's probably smart business to kind of rein that in a little bit.
Yeah, and this is kind of weird because they have terms that are 48 months or 24 months on all their other cards, and they had that on their ink cards at one time, and sometimes it's still on there, but they've never really enforced it. And that's kind of the easy thing. They could have just enforced those rules and made this not a problem. So they must want certain people, if you spend enough on your cards, they'll probably let it pass, and there's certain triggers and values. So they've left it may not be available to you. So it will all depend on whatever their back end systems look at and how they value you as a customer. So some people will probably be able to continue to get them no problem if they put a healthy amount of spend on their card, or they're a private client or something along those lines, have huge deposit accounts with them. Maybe that helps in that way, but it won't be as easy for the regular folk that's just in there and hits their bonus and then puts the card away. So we'll have to see how that plays out if they are more strict with it. And maybe this is just wondering if the economy goes bad, like people have thought, although we've thought that for several years now, that they can rein it in quickly with these terms already there.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't I go back to technology as our enemy. I think this has everything to do with AI, quite honestly. And we forget about what the future of AI is or what the promise of AI is. The AI that's available today can crunch significantly more data and analyze it in a way that you would need teams of analysts for even a decade ago. And so I think that business models previously were we're going to have a certain amount of breakage, there's going to be a certain amount of customers that fall outside of the scope of what we're trying to do, and that was allowable. And I think now they're able to, on a much better in a much better way, they're able to kind of dive down on a customer and see how good they are and crunch this data. And I think that's starting to happen, and I think that's going to continue to happen. So they're going to have a more I don't know, robust profile of who you are as a customer in real time as they're able to do this. This is at least what I'm hearing is going to happen. So, and is happening, and this would seem that, I mean, that's what these pop-ups are for, is the bank puts in whatever the algorithm decides if you're worthy or not, despite your credit report, despite your on-time payments, despite everything else. Are you worth it to them? American Express been doing this for a while, and technology is only going to make it easier for them to figure out who is good in their eyes and who is bad.
Yeah, and it seems like they try to make it as murky as possible. The one thing about like 524 and just Chase as a whole was you kind of knew what you where you stood, and it was fairly easy, and people didn't get upset about the rules because they uh, it was easy to hash out what they were. American Express was a little bit less forthcoming. You didn't know exactly when you would be outside of that no lifetime language, but at least you could play in that ballpark. Now Chase has made it as murky as possible. It's kind of like Capital One. Nobody ever knows why they get approved or they don't with the Capital One. It doesn't make any sense. You don't know what the criteria is, and that's where we are kind of leaning towards or moving towards with Chase. And I think it will create some animosity. It'll create some frustration on our side of things. But for most people, regular people will never deal with any of this. This is all aimed at people like us. So the majority of their customers don't have a care in the world about 524 or these type of terms. They sign up for a card every couple of years at tops, and it's not a big deal to them.
But what will be a big deal is if their rewards cards go away, and that's what we kind of hinted at earlier. A big settlement with Visa and MasterCard and merchants in the United States. This is a case that goes back to 2005. And there, as part of this settlement, there are some changes that are going to affect rewards cards and structures and merchants. And some of this is going to have to see how the market plays out and how merchants respond and how customers respond, I guess, to fees and stuff like that. But as part of the settlement, Visa, MasterCard, they are lowering their interchange fees by 0.1% over the next few years. So that is
Ooh.
good. It's probably not going to make a huge difference to the bottom line. Well, for the merchants, right? That probably alone isn't going to change anything from the rewards perspective and everything else. But also, as part of this settlement, they have to open up the networks, meaning that, let's say a Visa Infinite card has a higher interchange fee than a no annual fee card. Merchants would then be able to choose to only take no annual fee cards or cards that had lower fees. And this is going to create a bit of a mess with all that. It also opens the doors for more surcharges, merchants charging 3% for using credit cards. And I guess the question being, are you going to screw your customers? Will there be a backlash from customers if, say, you don't accept a Visa Infinite card compared to a no annual fee Visa card? I mean, the whole argument, American Express used to argue this for years with their higher interchange fees, saying we have a higher affluent customer, higher net worth, and therefore we're going to charge you more in interchange fees because we're bringing a better customer. Does a merchant want to send that person away so they can get the no annual fee person? Probably not. This will create a huge amount of changes in the industry, but we don't really know because it's a live market. We'll see what happens. But the profits that turn into your rewards are going to get squeezed. And remember, in China, just want to say this, there are whole payment systems that exist for fractions of a penny for every payment. So this whole 2 to 3% thing doesn't technologically need to exist.
No, and I think that's the big thing here. We only have a couple players in the interchange fee arena. You have Discover, American Express, Visa, and MasterCard. And Visa and MasterCard contain or control a lot of it. So they want to have competition in there, and that will drive costs down, prices down, all that stuff. But I can't see how a store would be like, oh, sorry, you can't swipe that one. Oh, you want to try that one? Oh, that one doesn't work either. Or this one does like it's a mess. I don't think they're very happy with the settlement of the merchant side of things. I think they would have been much better if they just like slash fees across the board and move forward. I think people would have been okay with that and let them use their cards how they may. And I think even like certain categories, that's why Chase on the Ink Cash pays more at office stores because I think the swipe fee is much higher in that category versus whatever other category versus, and that's why gas gets bonus in grocery because they charge a higher fee. Does that all play into this? How are they going to handle that? I don't know, but I know we're going to lose on this if it does go through. I think it still has to be approved. The sad thing is, if they do charge us the fee up front, and some small businesses already do this, but this would be like at a national scale with like a Home Depot charging you 3% or something. So we're going to lose that. And you know what? Home Depot is not going to lower their prices 3%. Nobody's going to change any of their prices. So we're going to get screwed out of either we're going to pay more for the same stuff, or we're not going to get any rewards if they refuse our credit card, and we're still going to pay the same, even though they're paying a lower fee, or we're going to just lose out on rewards altogether because they'll start giving us less. So the only people that are losing in this are us. The merchants are going to come out ahead. Visa and MasterCard are probably going to get the same swipe fees, and we're just going to get left holding less.
Yeah, I agree. I don't see any way where this is good for rewards cards, but is it good for society? First off, let's just talk about the insane nature of the system and what you just said, that going to an office supply store, they can charge a higher fee than a gas station or a grocery store or your local thing. Why? It's dollars. Why is it a different fee? It's the same swipe. It's everything. So the whole system is corrupt. We benefit from that, and we're okay with that. I mean, as far as the system exists, Mark and I can't change the system, so let's benefit from it. Let's take advantage of it. Let's make sure we cash out. But is it good for society? There's a famous video where Visa's CEO is in front of Congress, and I think that he's asked what the profit margin is, and if I remember right, it's like 75% profit margin on every transaction for Visa. And so you're like, why? Why do they even exist? And again, we benefit greatly from them. We've partnered with them, through various affiliate things in the past, whatever it is. But yeah, this system isn't great. But I agree with you. All these fixes, unless you get rid of the system, all these fixes are going to do is going to cost more to the consumer because lower interchange fees will go to the merchants or to the processors themselves. If they cut back rewards, that's going to affect us. And then I do think we are going to see credit card fees in many more places. This kind of opens the door for that to happen, meaning that a lot of companies, and once it becomes normalized like it has in gas stations in certain areas, then you're just going to start seeing it everywhere. So if you're paying a 3% fee to use a card, then the rewards don't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, and nobody wants to go back to cash. Like stores don't want cash. We don't want to carry cash. And this is kind of what they would force. What are you going to do? Unless they just say, okay, if you get a low fee or a no fee card that doesn't have high swipe fees, or you have to pay with your debit card, which nobody wants to do because there's no consumer protections. So this has got to get figured out. It's going to be horrible. All this cost is already baked in. You can't tell me that these merchants have been just eating a 2.5%, 3% fee for years and years, for decades now, and not raise their rates for it. So even if they came in and Visa said, all right, we're going to charge you a penny for every transaction, they're not changing, they're not dropping their prices for us. So this is just two big behemoths fighting it out, and we're getting screwed either way. So I'd rather it stay the way it is, where at least we have a way to take advantage of it. If the merchants get more money out of this, it's not going to help us in any way. So maybe they'll come out with store rewards that are better. I don't know, but this is just crazy. I'm surprised it went this far with, think about this. If this changes on a big scale, airlines, all their profit is from selling miles. If they're selling less miles, can the airlines still function? If hotels don't have loyalty programs or they're not as lucrative, can they still function? Like this could be a massive problem if they don't figure out a way that works for everything.
Yeah, we've sort of built a house of cards now on this whole payment infrastructure sort of thing. I agree everything you said, and we're not going to go back to cash, and so the market will adjust. And I think that's what I'm saying, is that we don't quite know how merchants, will we end up where everybody has a credit card fee? Will we end up where this is just a marginal difference and they figure out how to make it up elsewhere and it doesn't have a huge effect? Will we end up with, credit cards being used less? Maybe. I mean, like going back to China again, Mark. I mean, you just have an app on your phone, you scan your QR code, and it's paid and it's free. And so, and there's, it's again, the cost on the transaction side is a fraction of a penny. So the technology exists. Question being, if everybody's charging a 3% surcharge, should another company come in and do a almost, I don't know, almost free payment service with a QR code like Alipay or WePay in China? I don't know. It's interesting. I do think that in 10 years, our entire payment systems will be completely upended because this doesn't make a ton of sense. Even though we benefit from it, it doesn't make a ton of sense for the consumers in the end. I don't know that you can slice this anyway and say, with all the interest, all the extra fees, everything baked into every transaction, with technology where it is today, with the ability to process things for almost no cost, why does this 2 to 3% system make any sense? And it doesn't. But Visa, MasterCard worth billions of dollars, banks worth billions of dollars, so it'll stay in some form.
I think they would just hit us with fees elsewhere if they lose that swipe fee, like higher annual fees or higher APR or higher late fees, all that stuff. They're not going to just be like, oh, yeah, take our billions of dollars. That's cool. So it's going to come back at some way. They'll figure it out how to do it. But the crazy thing is the rise of the credit card. When people used to pay cash for things, they bought less, they spent less. Each trip, if you look at, and there's been a million different not scientific, but studies on this. If a person goes to a store with cash, they're going to spend less than a person with credit cards. So the fact that they're making more based off of us being willing to carry debt and a lot of times buy outside of what we can afford. Credit cards are bad for consumers in terms of finances, 100%, no doubt about it. They're great for merchants. So the fact that they're fighting over a 1 or 2% profit margin line is idiotic on their part. They're going to piss off their customers over something that they're probably spending 10, 15, 20% more than they would otherwise. I don't know. What is it? Walking over a dollar to pick up a dime? I think that's what we're doing right now.
Our whole economy is based on that, on the consumer spending, on spending more, and all of that. If we all became financially responsible, I imagine we'd buy a lot less crap, and therefore the economy wouldn't do as well. I don't know. But this has been, I will also say that this case has been around since 2005. There have been different efforts over the years to rein in this stuff. There have been different bills in Congress. We obviously saw the Card Act way back when, which limited certain things. So there is a move in this direction because it is consumer unfriendly, but there's also huge business interests on the other side. And I think that the market will settle somewhere. That's like what happened with realtors, right? When they took away the way the whole commission structure worked and all of that, it's still sort of settled in where realtors have to get paid and the system sort of worked itself out. And I think that will happen in one way or the other here. I do think rewards cards are hugely important from a marketing perspective for the banks, for the travel providers, and therefore it will live on in some form or another. Hopefully, I'm always, again, I'm twisted because I want lots of miles and points for myself. I don't think that this is necessarily great for society.
Yeah, it's a tough line to cross or line to walk. You can see both sides of it. It's not helpful to us, most of the country, but it's really helpful to us that know how to take advantage of it. And that's the way with any system. So we'll have to see how that all plays out and where it lands. And maybe we go back to 25K or 50K sign up bonuses, but the awards aren't going to be, set down that low anymore.
That's so depressing to think about. 25K.
Yeah.
Hey, we lived through all of that. Let's cleanse our palate and close with this, Mark. Six Flags Qiddiya, I talked about it, longest, tallest coaster in the world, all that stuff. They announced their opening date, December 31st of this year. So I only say that because you're going to hear a lot about Qiddiya in the next few years as it becomes the tourist hotspot, or that's trying to replace the Emirates or compete with Dubai. But yeah, Six Flags Qiddiya, the largest, tallest coaster in the world, opening at the end of the year in the very controversial Saudi Arabia. I'm going to go there. Hopefully next year, if not the beginning of 27.
You're not rope dropping it? Opening day? Come on.
Dave wants to go. My buddy wants to. I want to fly there in January and go ride this thing, but I may have to wait a year. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, let us know in the comments what you guys think about anything we talked about. The credit card reward space, is it taking advantage of customers? Do you think the system is good as it is? What do you think the cascading changes will be for all of this? Chase's new rules. Is this a big deal for you? Is it not? Venture X, are you going to go for that big spend bonus on the Venture X? Free cruises. Are you shocked that I booked something in 2027? Leave a comment. We do this show every Monday on both YouTube, and you can listen to it as a podcast. We also do our Vegas show on Tuesdays and Fridays on YouTube. Also can listen to that as a podcast.
Lots of places. Have a good week, everybody.
Bye.